Hello, trading is closed on the 22nd of August 2024. We always start with our disclaimer, review our calls, and then make our predictions. It's my trading plan for tomorrow, Friday, August 23rd, 2024. Please remember my calls can be completely wrong. Any trade you make should be made at your own risk. Look for the pattern with the early high. That's this. Tomorrow should also have the early high. Standard pattern is a rally into the close. Failure is a straight line drop. Well, you could say that's a straight line drop. You could say that's a straight line drop. I think it's close enough. Usually, though, I expect straighter. That doesn't make me right. For right now, we'll say it's the weak pattern. And usually when you get the weak pattern with the straight line drop, it means the drop's not over. That doesn't mean you have to close down tomorrow, but you'd expect to get follow through. Of course, the whole thing falls apart if we gap and take this out early, which doesn't seem very plausible at this time, but anything's possible. Well, here's what we said. I was very suspicious of the action. I said I couldn't justify going short. I don't like picking tops when it's not the top. But I said I didn't think the rally was over. But I said unless we get and promptly overtook yesterday's high, we should justify having a stop, even though I didn't have enough to go short at this price. And if I did go short at this price, I probably would have been stopped out. Anyway, we gapped up, overtook the high, but the gap filled. And once the gap filled, there's no gap anymore. And I think at this point, you could justify putting a stop on a long position. We were suspicious in part because of this bar 9 printing. These don't have to correct at all. They don't have to correct immediately, but it's something which happens a high percentage of the time. Just like most of the time, I expect to get follow through on a move like this, which is what you need. And then we have MEJT targets down next in the 5430s, but until you get the follow through, nothing's a lock. We got an ultimate sell signal in the afternoon. That's played out. MEJT says it won't stick, gives us a target of 55.9431. Well, if we don't gap down smartly, that's what the rules say print, so I'll make that my call, but I'm going to cross my fingers on this one, because if this is the top of significance, which is plausible to me, MEJT almost always leaves a failed target. So we're going to say that's the target with an increased risk that it won't work. Now we had this trend line we showed yesterday. We stopped right there. I'd like for that to work, but until we get confirmation, there's no signal. And if some miracle happens and we gap over this line or trade over, this break doesn't count. And the same thing goes here. This was the parallel channel we drew. It stopped right there. You get confirmation. It wouldn't surprise me to go into the 5400s and maybe even lower than that. But without the confirmation, you just have to keep your powder dry, because this is a correction in the bull market. Two things make me suspicious here. One thing is we dropped all day, couldn't take out this midday low. So this last few hours didn't accomplish much. The catch is we corrected in the last 5 minutes with under 5 minutes left to trade. We were at the low of the day, and what happens in the last 5 minutes can often be ignored. The thing that's of a little bit more interest to me is the fib ratio of these drops. Here's the first wave down. We'll set that at 100. Next wave down is right at 78.6. And the last one's at 38.2. So you got fib ratios like this, you've got the inability really to take out this low at the close. You've got the higher target. There's a real possibility of a lack of follow-through in this pattern. Now, a friend of mine has a timing system. He calls for a change in trend tomorrow. There is a tolerance in his work, so being off by a day doesn't mean much. That could still be it. But if this does hold, I mean, there's a good chance we're going to see 55.94.31. And if we can't take out this close or this low, this could still bounce back. Doesn't break any rules. Friday's pattern has the early high regardless of where we open. There's a higher MEJT target unless we gap down smartly. The rules call for it to print. Now, the system nearly always leaves a failed target at major changes in trend, so that target might not work. Today's normally bullish pattern wasn't bullish at all, it was bearish. Unless we gap and promptly overtake today's high, we should see lower prices tomorrow, even if we don't close lower. Now, the high a day was in the first 5 minutes and the low a day in the last 5 minutes, and that's a fairly reliable signal that you're going to get follow through. That's a bearish pattern. So today's reversal needs confirmation by trading under today's close. I suspect that'll happen, but the fib ratios of the down legs and the inability to close under the midday low make a recovery possible. The point I'm trying to make is you got all you need for a correction here. It's right at the place where a correction normally happens. It's where DeMarc's work calls for it. It's where those trend lines call for it. Everything's in place if you get follow through. But if you don't get follow through, I don't care how bad this looks, we can't go under this close or ideally under this low. Nothing says you can't bounce back. How are futures doing? Let's see. Well, futures are up 775. That's not really so much in a market this high. I still think we're going to get the follow through, but until you get it, you just have to be aware this is a correction in the strong bull market, and at some point we're going to overtake this high. It's the pattern tomorrow with the early high, higher target. Just be aware if you don't get follow through, it might burn you. And that is today's call.